Welcome to another episode of our Personal Empowerment Premium Audio Series, Finding Yourself in Paradise. Hi, I'm Michael Benner.
And I'm Steve Snyder, and our program today is entitled Making Life Memorable. You know, all my life, virtually, since I was a teenager, I've been fascinated by the human mind, and one of the things that is most fascinating to me is how it behaves in terms of its experience with stress. The higher the level of stress, the more the negative thoughts really stick, and the positive thoughts sort of slide off. And the lower the level of stress, the more the positive thoughts stick, and the more the negative thoughts sort of slide off. So when you're stressed, the ego voice, the fear-based voice, takes over and makes the negative stuff really important because survival is like on hand here. This might be dangerous. It's usually just confusing, but it might be dangerous. And when we're relaxed and feeling safe, then the positive voice, that quieter, whispering, positive voice sort of takes over, and the positive thoughts sort of stick. Usually, when you're stressed, it's like the negative thoughts are like Velcro and the positive thoughts are like Teflon, but you can make that change by becoming more relaxed, and one of the ways to do that is to make the positive experiences in your life more memorable. To stop for a moment each time you have one of those positive experiences, whether you see something that looks cool or hear something wonderful or just feel a special way, take a moment and go, whoa, that felt really good. Let me feel that again. And recreate the experience to sort of amplify it, to sort of imprint it, to sort of anchor with it so that you're spending more time with the positive. Because so many people spend much of their time in the negative, in the worry, in the what feels like it might be wrong and what could go wrong. And I'm just saying, create some counterbalance here. Make life memorable by focusing in on the things that feel good, that look good, that smell good, that taste good, and imprint them with more intensity.
I think this is a really cool subject and a great idea. It sounds like living deliberately, which is one of my favorite Henry David Thoreau lines about the reason he went to Walden Pond. He said, I went there because I wanted to learn to live deliberately. Wow, that's just so rich. In this day and age, especially, where people often fight for bragging rights over who's more stressed and who's getting the most done and who's the busiest. And as we record this, we're in the holiday season in December of 2011, and even on Maui, out here in the middle of the ocean, we have a business district. You can feel that extra energy, that rush, as people say they're fighting the commercialization of Christmas, but there they are out there in the maddening crowds rushing around. And then you look back on it and you go, well, I don't really remember a whole lot of it. It's sort of a daze, Well, maybe that's even okay with a lot of what we go through in our lives. But Steve's saying, imagine those moments where you could be aware enough, awake enough to decide at that time deliberately to make this a rich and wonderful memory, to record this as a life experience. And I don't mean opening up your cell phone and texting about it or taking a picture of it. Cameras have a funny way of separating you from the reality of the situation. I used to, when I first came to Hawaii, take my camera with me on the whale watch boat. And afterwards, I had only vague memories of seeing the whales and all these memories of playing with the damn camera, trying to get it to work. And, well, I decided the best shots of whales ever taken have already been taken by better photographers than me. And I just put down the camera and focus my attention on paying attention to what's happening now and making it a memorable moment, seeing it, tasting it, smelling it, and then saying to myself, the affirmation I use, Steve, is, this will be easy to remember.
That's a wonderful line. Again, in a world that's stressful, it's not dangerous, but it is confusing. There's lots of stuff happening. And people walk around in a stress mode, feeling anxiety, feeling tension in their bodies, feeling confused frequently. Then the mind is leaning toward, looking for what could go wrong or what might already be wrong. The mind is, looking for danger, looking for something bad to happen. And when the focus is there, any thought we have, any feeling we have that pops up in our mind is important to us because it might lead to this danger we need to protect ourselves from, and so we make those thoughts memorable. So we worry. When we worry, what we're doing is we're telling our mind, first of all, we're telling our mind, this is where we want to go, and these are the thoughts we want to have. That's why we're having them. It's not really true, but it's what we're telling our mind. Whatever we're thinking, our mind thinks this is what we want to be thinking. This is whatever we're aiming at. That's where it wants to go. So the more we worry, the more we're imprinting. That's the direction I want to head. So what I'm suggesting, and what Michael's suggesting here, is that we take those positive thoughts we have about things we do want, things we really want the most, things that feel really good to us, and when we have those kind of thoughts, stop and pay a lot of attention to those thoughts. Make them memorable. Feel them more deeply. Experience them again and again. Make sort of compensate for all the energy we put into worry by at least putting as much energy into this positive aspiring, dreaming of better and feeling like the world could even be more wonderful than this. Positive thoughts, and of course the positive experiences of our lives come in through our five senses. Every day, I am convinced no matter where you live, every day nature provides at least one shot that is beautiful and spectacular and gorgeous that you can stop and look at. Now, if you happen to be as fortunate as Michael and I live in Maui, there's an infinite number of those.
Lots to choose from, yeah.
Everywhere, nature, sunsets, sunrises, mountains, it's amazing. So, and the smells, baking bread, there's some smells that anytime life provides us with those moments, or what's always true for me, when I provide them for myself through my reading or through my pondering, I provide these insights or I read this great idea, I stop, pay extra attention to it. If it feels good, feel it good again. That's sort of like, if it feels good, feel it good twice or three times or four times. Because each time you do that, you're telling your mind, this is what I want to be thinking about. This is the direction I want to be going. This is how I want to feel. The more we intentionally feel good, the more we're telling our mind, this is what we want to feel. Now, all we have to do really to automatically feel that is lower our stress. The lower the stress you have, the more you're going to automatically feel that good stuff. But when life is stressful, sometimes we have to take a moment and release the stress by a breath. A breath is huge, just one conscious breath. I'm deciding to slow down now. And then purposely remembering or creating some really positive thought, positive feeling, positive experience, and make it memorable. Something you're anticipating, some vacation that's upcoming and you're imagining how wonderful it's going to be, something you're remembering that you experienced, or most powerful of all, something that's happening right here and right now.
Memory is clearly one of the primary qualities of consciousness or awareness, or you could call it intelligence as well. Consciousness would be my favorite word for it, because if you have a bad memory, so-called, what does that mean, that you have a bad memory? Well, people say I have a bad memory, I don't remember this or that. There's a number of reasons for that, and several different meanings for, we'll talk about that, we'll flesh that out. But what I'm saying is that if you have a hard time remembering something, it's probably because you were thinking of something else while it was happening. If you pay attention, it'll be much easier to remember and to recall. Okay, if we're going to distinguish recall as different from the storage of the memory. If you don't know where you left your car keys, and the reason you like to leave them in the same place every time so you don't have to remember, is when you put your car keys down, you're thinking of something else. If instead, when you put your car keys down, you say, that'll be easy to remember, you just note, you pay attention, you focus your passion, your attention in the moment. Doesn't matter where you leave them. Put them in a different place every day. In fact, that's not a bad exercise. And then just take 1 second of your precious time to let go of worry and planning your life and judging other people, and just say, my keys are here. That'll be easy to remember. Flash, half a second. You didn't even have to say it out loud. And it'll be easy to remember because you deliberately, you chose to make it a memory. Now, let's talk about something really meaningful, like the first date with somebody that you're really attracted to, or the day that you're married, or when your kids are born, or the transition of grandma and grandpa passing over. To retain that, to store it richly, and not just to bring a visual memory up, but the scents, the smells. I mean, I still flash when people bake cookies. I often flash in my grandmother's kitchen, especially at this time of year. And the visual follows. It's that fragrance, that scent, or the taste. My mouth is watering now, right? And the sounds and people speaking. Memory can be really rich. We're not just talking about one, like visuals tend to see it and auditories tend to hear it, but whatever your primary system of remembering, learn to flesh that out and to develop your ability to really create rich, meaningful memories because you did it deliberately.
Because when you do it deliberately, you can intensify the experience and make the mind get how important it is. See, the mind basically decides in terms of memory where to put it and how important to make it based on how emotionally charged the experience was. You remember what you love, you remember what you hate, you remember what scares you, what excites you, and what you'll have a lot of trouble remembering is what you were bored by, apathetic about, or indifferent to. So it's like if your memory is sort of like a file cabinet drawer, the easy to remember stuff in the front and the hard to remember stuff in the back, the stuff in the front is the stuff you had most emotion on, and the stuff in the back you had least. Well, it's not exactly like that, though, because you see, memory is a whole bunch of different pieces of it all stored in different places in the brain. The memory doesn't all go to one. There's not like a memory bank place, like a vault, that all the stuff is. The visual part goes over here, and the auditory part goes over here, and the smell part goes over here.
Sort of holographic.
Yeah, exactly. So every time you remember a memory, what you're doing really is reassembling the pieces of this puzzle, and it's always going to be a little different every single time. There's no, unless you have an eidetic memory, one of those, very rare experiences of photographic complete. Everything you remember is a little different each time because you're not only reassembling the pieces, but you're also remembering the last time you reassembled the pieces. So all that gets jumbled together. But the powerful stuff, the stuff that you make powerful or that just is powerful, is the stuff that's most readily remembered and that affects you the strongest. So what we're saying is, make stronger memories of the great stuff. Everybody has, every day there's a great stuff that you can experience. You can even amplify and pretend and make great stuff happening. Just think about the vacation you're about to take and how wonderful it's going to be. That's great stuff. Take some time every single day, just like you do with worry. Almost everybody does. Take some time every single day and intentionally, that's such a powerful concept. Think of really good stuff and think of it stronger and think of it even stronger and pretend. You pretend and then you tend, So you pretend with great intensity. You give it your all. You act as if you are in a play, and in the play, it's your part to play the role of somebody who's absolutely giving it their all to this experience. Intensify. And then the brain imprints this more strongly in all the different areas it imprints it, and it's easier to remember, it's easier to bring back to consciousness, and it presents an option. So you see, when you start spiraling into negative thoughts and negative feelings, when you start to get into that worry mode and that anxiety space that we often get into, the more powerful of a memory of a positive thing you have to grab onto, it's like the stronger an asset it can be to you. The weak ones are hard to grasp, but the really strong ones, that you can go remember those. And that's so powerful because you see a spiraling process. When the thoughts are negative, creating more and more negative, any one positive thought, any one like glimmer, like light at the end of the tunnel, any one like a star in the sky, any one positive, wonderful positive thought or feeling changes everything. And it doesn't eliminate the negative thoughts. It just breaks the pattern. It breaks the cycle. And all of a sudden, there's cognitive dissonance. All of a sudden, there's the mind wanting to go two different directions. All of a sudden, there's no spiraling down anymore. You've broken the pattern. Now the mind can go back and start spiraling down again. But it also has the option of taking a breath and saying, okay, now wait a minute, there are things worth living for. There are things in my mind, in my life, in my being, in my future that are wonderful. Let me just take a few moments and go there. And the stronger the memories you have that you've made, that you've taken experiences and amplified them and made them memorable, the easier it'll be to do that. And so it's sort of a guard. It's sort of a net. Like if you start to fall into the negative stuff, here's something you can use to pull yourself out, if only temporarily. But temporarily is huge. I mean, it's really huge. Because any respite, any moment where you don't feel that negative stuff, where you don't feel that pain, that sorrow, that anguish, any moment of joy changes your outlook instantly in a very significant way.
I think we should acknowledge that there's a lot of research that shows that on one level anyway, memory is perfect. Even subliminally perceived information seems to be stored in the brain. And brain researchers have done a lot of work where they're actually poking around in the brain with electrodes and stimulating memories that the patient then declares they have no recollection of, right? They have not been able to recall that, or they don't even have any reason to remembering that. And yet here they're poking around and they're evoking these memories. So we should probably talk about memory in terms of, again, consciousness, awareness, a willingness to understand, to pay attention, to concentrate, and to focus, to give yourself permission to have a good, rich memory, to pay attention, focus on those things that you really want to be memorable, and to let go of this bias, this obsession that we have with worry. It's funny, we need to, it seems, get permission from people to dream our dreams, as Steve was saying, as if that's not idealistic, blue sky, waste of time. My goodness, how does anything get created or improve if it's not for people dreaming dreams? That's an incredibly important thing. Or to get permission to pay attention to the present moment, even to be mindful, as if, no, you should be multitasking. But we sure don't need any consensus about worry. We will dwell on the past, every permutation of the way our lives might have been better, projecting that off into the future, and we miss the present moment. All of this worry is a distraction that is going to make it difficult to recall anything except that background of worry. You see, that'll always be there, and there's not that much to remember about it except you've always worried. Since you were a child, you worried. Gee, your mom and dad were worriers, right? Or one was severely a worrier, a negative thinker. Maybe the other was just an alcoholic, right? So you had plenty of reason to worry and to be afraid. Life is so rich and so wonderful. You get a double benefit when you pay attention in the moment. You get that moment free from this anxiety in the past, from the past, and you get a richer memory when you decide to recall it consciously later on.
Yeah, it's really pretty fascinating about worry, Like, people think, well, I don't want to worry, I just worry. It just comes into my head. I don't, go there intentionally. That's only true when you're stressed. It is natural to worry. That is to think of what could go wrong when you're feeling endangered. That's a logical thing to do. But the fact that you're feeling endangered where there is no danger is where you can make the shift. Because although worry is natural when you're feeling stressed, it's not natural at all when you're feeling safe. When you feel safe, worry is something you have to consciously, purposely do. What you naturally do when you feel safe is, dream of good stuff, think of happy thoughts. That's the normal thing.
That's true, isn't it?
It is. I mean, Paul Simon, one of our favorite lines, the thought that life could be better is woven indelibly into our hearts and our brains. Every human being has this thing inside that wants to dream about, aspire to greater things, to have more wonderful stuff, help more wonderful people. It's in us. Except for sociopaths and psychopaths, essentially. It's in all of us.
But the meaning of the word dream is a positive reference. I mean, a dream is not a nightmare.
No.
A nightmare is a nightmare. A dream is a positive.
It's a vision of where you would like to head. It's the direction you want to go. It's the
tendency to dream then is a tendency to think positively.
Right, and the tendency to dream comes with those who can feel safe. The more you feel unsafe, the less you dream in that way. The more you nightmare, so to speak. So we're talking about the fact that worry isn't natural. It's become normal, but it's not natural. And that you can stop doing most of it in a couple of different ways. One of them is to worry once, that is to think of the worst case scenario in any given area of your life and know that if you can handle the worst case, you can handle anything less than that. And you couldn't possibly imagine everything that could go wrong, so you couldn't handle everything. So just if you can handle the worst, you can handle anything else. And then worry once. Anytime you start to go off that way, you can just shift and say, I've got a solution, and start to think about what you do want. And the other thing you can do is you can take most of the emphasis, this is a perception thing, take most of the emphasis off of the stimulus. That is, stuff is going to happen, good stuff's going to happen, bad stuff's going to... The thing I'm going to focus on is what am I going to do with what happens? I mean, how am I going to experience what happens? How am I going to view what happens? What attitude, what mood, what point of view am I going to see what happens to me come from? Am I going to be curious and excited about whatever it is that's going to come next, good, bad, or indifferent? I'm going to just make the best out of it. I'm going to take that out, and I'm going to decide that I could do something new and different and creative this time with what happens to me. I don't have to do what I did last time. I can do something special, something unique, something wonderful this time. If you do those two things, then it doesn't really matter what happens so much. It's what you do with what happens, then life becomes interesting, as Dylan says, starting right about now.
Steve, something you mentioned, but you went over it so quickly, I want to go back and spend a little time with it. And that's something I learned listening to my wife, Doreen, actually interview Gore Vidal back in Los Angeles. And they were talking about memory, and he said, of course, whenever you remember, you're remembering the last time you remembered, not the original event. And I'd never thought of that before. I'd never heard anybody say that. I'd never considered that, never wondered about it. Now, I'm not sure how you prove that, but that makes your memory more like the game, Party Line, right? Where you whisper a statement. Telephone? Is that what they call it? I thought it was Party Line. Anyway, we know the game, right? And watch the statement.
It's very different as it goes around the circle.
Exactly. And what are we doing with our memories but remembering what we want to remember? Right? Afraid to remember, and then you're not sure. Some of the memories are vague, so you're going to give yourself the benefit of the doubt, right? Unless you're building a case that you really are bad, weak, and inadequate somehow. So then you forgot that you made that rather arbitrary decision. The next time you remember it, you take it. It's just a fisherman's story, and every time he tells it, the fish is 3 inches longer than the last time. And Grandpa holds his hands a little farther apart, saying, I swear, Lord is my witness, it was this big. He thinks he's telling the truth, but there is a subjective quality to memory, too.
Yeah, indeed. And, memory is not what happened. It's what happened after it came through your lens. It's what happened after it came through your filter system. A husband and wife experience the exact same experience and remember totally different aspects of it in totally different ways. So, now, memory is very subjective, mostly subjective, in fact. And what we see... for some of us, something happens, an experience happens, and some people remember what they saw mostly, and some people remember what they heard mostly, and some people remember how it made them feel mostly, and some people, there are people who make things happen, there are people who watch things happen, and there are people who wonder what happened, so all different experiences of life happen. Memory is your experience of what happened, again, filtered through your lens, through your prejudices, the things you've already prejudged, through the way you look at things and the way you experience life. So, given that, you can make your memories more significant or less significant as they come in. How do you make an experience that comes into your life a less significant memory? Well, the way you make it less significant is to release its negative energy. And how do you do that? And you do that by releasing physical tension, emotional anxiety, and mental confusion. You do that with a breath. You just consciously say, that bad thought I just had, or ooh, that experience I just saw, that I don't want that memory to be strong, I'm going to let that go. I'm just going to... And now I'm going to think about something that's really wonderful and remember this moment associated with the really wonderful stuff. I'm going to focus on what's wonderful instead of that. I saw this bad thing, or I had that bad thought, and I'm glad I'm letting it go. Good. Came out. If I held it in, it might sabotage me. I'm glad I'm letting it go. This is good. And now let me pay attention to something that feels good in my life. Because, again, there's no backup will. Whatever it is you're thinking about, your mind thinks that's the way you want to go. So spend as little time as possible with the negative stuff. Not to say avoid it. You can't avoid it. It comes up so you can release it. You can spend little time with it. Whenever negative stuff comes up, you experience it or you remember it. Just with a breath, release it. How do you hold on to something? You grab it and tighten. How do you release something? You let go. As you just let go. You just... that sigh of relief thing, that release feeling, you just let go. And the negative thing goes by really quickly. You have a negative thought about something, you can cancel, let it go. Just really, and then take your mind and bring it back to the target. Bring it back to what you do want. Bring it back to what you're truly aspiring to be or become. The thought that life can be better is woven indelibly into our hearts and our minds and our brains and all parts of us. And all you need to do is consciously, purposely take a moment and put down the stress and pick up the passion.
Well, that's the tip of the tongue phenomena, isn't it? The harder you try to remember or recall something, the less likely you are. Or what comes through is a dribble and a drab as if filtered by the very effort, the tension that you bring to trying to do something that should be effortless. And so Steve's nailed it. The secret is not to try. The secret is letting go.
Yoda had it before I did.
What did he say?
He said, try not. There is do or don't do.
That's right. I remember that.
Try.
When Luke's trying to levitate.
Yeah, that's the one.
Right. Do or don't do. Who told you to try? Exactly. I understand the use of the word, but I also understand the idea that we tend to hedge our bets as if there's some safety in failure. Like, well, they didn't really fail, and then you rationalize. And, well, why not just redouble your efforts and take an attitude that there is no failure except opportunities to learn that people call failure to their own detriment? So this idea that the best way to overcome tip of the tongue phenomena is not to overcome it, but to release it. The best way to remember is not to make an effort, but to allow the information to come to you. Now, the imagery that I use is one of magnetism. If something's right there on the tip of my tongue and I'm going, what may be a single word that I'm trying to use to describe, what's that word, what am I trying to say? Or it could be like this whole period of my life that I'm trying to recall, or lessons learned that I thought were memorable at the time. Well, if it's out there, but I'm not quite conscious of it yet, it's right there on the tip of my tongue. You know the feeling I'm talking about. I think of myself as magnetically pulling it into my brain. Not through any effort, no reaching, but by letting go and relaxing. I may even take a breath. And as I relax, I think of my brain automatically, magnetically, without any effort, pulling it toward me, and then, boop, it pops right into my head, right? That happens naturally. You could accelerate the process instead of saying, oh, I'll remember later, or what you should say is, I'll think of it in a moment. But a lot of people will say, oh, well, I guess I forgot. I can't remember some such thing. But they do, as soon as they stop trying to remember and go back to the conversation, and all of a sudden, there it is, popped right into my head. Oh, I see that as a function of the relaxation, of the letting go.
Yeah, just say stuff like, I'll have that in a moment, or it's coming to me, and give the mind that expectation. And then take the emphasis off of that, make it like, of course I'm going to remember, I always remember, and then go off and do something else, and it'll pop back into your mind. It's really quite remarkable the way the memory thing works. People think that they have bad memories. Nobody has a bad memory. Everybody remembers more than 1 million things for every one thing they forget. It's just, what do you focus on? The remembering, every time you say a word, you have to remember how to pronounce it and how you move your mouth to make that happen and what's the meaning of it in this context. Everything we do, we remember. I mean, we don't know anything when we're born except how to suck. Everything else we learn and remember. So memory is really a remarkable thing. And it's manipulatable. I mean, you're going to manipulate it. That is, whatever your basic attitude about life is manipulates your memory. If your attitude is life is a horrible thing and it's terrible, you will remember all the bad stuff. And if your attitude is life's a wonderful thing, miracle after miracle, then you'll remember the good stuff. And it's not like, oh, there is more good stuff for happy people and there more is bad stuff for unhappy people. No. Unhappy people see the bad stuff and happy people see the good stuff, and that's what they imprint and that's what they remember. So, you're in charge of doing that. Your autopilot is set based on your level of stress. If you live high level of stress, your autopilot's set on looking for the bad stuff and paying less attention to the good stuff. If your life is less stressful, if you're experiencing less physical tension in your body and not a lot of anxiety in your gut and you're not feeling confused much, then the natural autopilot setting is on to dreaming good stuff and thinking about happy stuff and feeling and remembering all the wonderful things that happen, I mean, I just had in my life one of the most memorable experiences of my life, and I'd say it's probably one of the most memorable experiences in anybody's life. I had my mom die. Now, anybody who ever had that happen, it's got to rank up there as one of the more memorable experiences of your life. And, I've been thinking about it a whole lot lately. It just happened a few months ago, and I took care of her the last several years of her life, and it was a difficult thing to do, and I've been thinking about, why didn't I put her in a home? Because, that had been easier on some level. And I realized how driven I was, really, by the future thought of not feeling guilty. I didn't realize it on a conscious level, but what I realized what was driving me was deep down inside of me was this thing of, if I don't put her in a home, if I do work my butt off and take care of her, I'm doing it selfishly because really what I want is after that happens for the rest of my life, I get to feel proud of myself instead of feeling like guilty. And I know if I would have put her in a home, I'd have felt guilty because she kept saying, how come you never come visit me? And I know I gave her that power because she birthed me. And everybody knows what I'm talking about.
Guilt, a Jewish mother, guilt?
Yeah. So I knew it was all about a selfish feeling of not wanting to feel that guilt. My whole life behavior was driven by a fear of feeling something that that it wasn't even real. I mean, it was just a fear of feeling guilt. It wasn't even real guilt. There was nothing to feel guilty about. So what we do is we put the power in whatever matters most to us. And on some level, without even being conscious of it, I realized that how my mommy felt about me drove my life. Wanting to please her, wanting to have her be proud of me was such a driving factor. Of course, it was one of the very first things I ever learned, when I was born, and for everyone on some level. So take a look at what's driving you. I mean, I was oblivious on some level. I was really oblivious to how much my fear of feeling guilty that I is creating in my mind drove my behavior. It would have been so much easier on my wife and probably on my marriage if I would have put her in a home and not had to, live with that all the time. But the fear of some future feeling, that's a very powerful thing. Memory before it's even created is sometimes what drives our lives.
And yet it's never too late to have a happy childhood.
Never too late.
We often hear that, and the idea that you can manage your memories. You can, I don't want to say manipulate, but learn from them in such a way that you see them in a new light. The memory doesn't really change, but your understanding changes. That's one of the great values of counseling and therapy, is you get to see yourself in a new light and go, oh, well, now that I'm older and think about it, look back at it, well, no wonder. But you need a really rich memory for that to have a significant effect. The memory's got to be almost like a re-experiencing or a regression to those times. And again, it's, as Steve said, relaxation and visualization. The therapists often use, or so-called hypnotic regression. It's remembering and imagining. The idea that memory is in the imagination, if we haven't said that clearly, let's say it now. Memory is imagining. You need a good imagination as well to recall the images. I mean, we're talking about information that, like a computer, is stored in the brain as little tiny bits of information. It's the imagination that reassembles them into a picture or a voice or the smell of grandma's cookies, right? Whatever. A feeling in your body that you recall. There's a a degree of consciousness, but it's the deeper subconscious that is forming these images, and they tell you a lot about yourself. The way I remember this, these unresolved feelings, right? A lot of human anger is misdirected. It's way old, left over from childhood, that you're putting on the person in the room right now just because they happen to be in the room. But that anger you're remembering, you're expressing, can be really, really old.
Yeah, there's a lot of voices going on in there, and some of them are angry, negative ones, and some of them are really happy, positive ones. Are always happening. They say people are, when they're, in normal, stressful situations, thinking about 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 things at the same time. And one of those is probably like, I need to relax, or, like quiet down, or take a moment. One of those voices is the quiet, like, I know better voice, the quiet, like, higher consciousness that's really in your better judgment voice. But when all that other stuff's going on, you don't hear that voice. It whispers. And the voices that yell are the ones that are about fear and paranoia and bad stuff happening. So, sometimes you just have to purposely stop all that noise in your head. I mean, you just have to purposely say, I can't do this all day long. I got all this stuff to do. But for the next few minutes, I can do this. For the next few minutes, I'm just going to slow down. I'm just going to close all that negative stuff out, and I'm going to relax and unwind, and I'm going to go take a little trip to paradise. So I'm going to take a mini vacation. I'm going to slow down my mind, let the tension out of my body and the anxiety out of my gut and the confusion out of my mind, and imagine myself in a really safe and peaceful place where I feel nice and good. And I can afford to do this for a few minutes now. In fact, I need to do this for a few minutes now. In fact, we all need to do this for a few minutes now. So why don't we, in fact, do this for a few minutes now?
I think so. Audio journey time, gang. So get comfortable, get relaxed, do some, shoulder shrugs, head rolls, shake your body a little bit, and then find a nice, comfortable position. If you're a formal meditator, you can assume that position. And if you'd rather just sit back on a chair, a sofa, and allow the back and the furniture to support you, that's fine. Just scooch all the way back so that you're essentially sitting straight. And think of yourself as sitting open and receptive as you relax, close your eyes, and begin to take a few slow, deep breaths. Beginning and self-taught meditators, this is often what they forget to do, is breathe. Very important. Do 3, 4, 5 nice, slow, even, deep breaths. Inhaling through the nose, hold as you peak, and as you exhale through the nose or the mouth, go beyond where you'd normally stop, wait for a beat, and then inhale through the nose. Feel the strength and the power coming in. And as you exhale, feel muscles relaxing. Create and sense that feeling in your body.
And this technique of breathing consciously, purposely, with attention, this technique will take you deeper. Will make you more relaxed. Will let your muscles know that they can release any tension and any anxiety can flow and confusion can go away. And the more you breathe and focus on being conscious of the breath, the deeper you'll go, the deeper you'll find your energy flow. But to stay here in this place of relaxed, focused passion and not go any deeper, because this is a wonderful fashion, this place right here, is to imagine yourself in paradise, a place of perfect peace, a place now that most of the tension and anxiety and confusion is released, a place that feels safe and quiet and free. Paradise, a peaceful place, a wonderful place to be, a place that looks good and sounds good and smells good and feels good and even tastes good. The freshness of the air, it's happiness, it's beauty, it's wonderful everywhere. It's your place. You made it out. You created it with your mind and with your heart. Perfect place of paradise. That's where you start. And now you make this place more memorable. Because, understand, you see, this peaceful place inside of you, it can create sanity. It can add years to your life. It can give you an outlet for your stress. It can help you do your best when it comes to any test. This place, this paradise place, well, it can change your life in many ways. This paradise place is a space where you can create being great. So make this place quite memorable in what you see and hear and feel. Make it seem so lifelike. Make it seem so real. Make it really paradise. Really, really true. Make it seem like it's paradise there inside of you, and make it memorable, because this place has properties so great that in this place of paradise, anything in the universe in your mind is yours to create.
And so to make this very experience one of life's rich memories, worth remembering, so as to repeat again and again. Form the intention. Simply orient yourself to the mental statement that you say internally to yourself. This will be easy to remember. This meditation, this state of awareness, this level of conscious understanding and focus will be easy to remember. It is now easy to remember. And flesh it out. How does it feel in your body right now to be in a place of perfect peace, a beautiful place like this? So peaceful. How does it register deep inside your body and feel that feeling? Give it a texture, a temperature or color. How does it sound? You hear voices speaking to you? Do you hear the birds singing and the wind in the trees? Do you hear your own inner voice affirming the value of consciously and deliberately remembering to remember this deep peace easily, anytime you need peace, to be smarter and more aware, to be more sensitive and loving, to expand your ability to understand, to grow, to learn, to heal, so that you carry this feeling with you in your body to come to paradise, to find the truth of the self as a feeling of fulfillment and contentment so rich that you can take it from place to place, draw upon it whenever the world around you becomes stressed and chaotic. You'll find it easy to remember.
So imagine yourself going to paradise all throughout the day. Perhaps whenever you hang up the telephone or send an email on its way. Imagine yourself in your current life experiencing the tension, the anxiety, the strife, but having an antidote, a way to release, a feeling of relaxation and safety and peace. That paradise place, if only for a moment or two or three, you'll find that it will be a wonderful feeling that you can create. Just a release of the tension and make you feel great. If only for a moment, the feeling will last longer than that, and you'll get yourself past the stuff that feels hard, and you'll always find that this paradise is here inside of your mind. You can use it anytime you choose. Your mind's such a powerful tool for you to use. So make this place memorable. Really, really create a feeling of loving it, a feeling like it's great, and so you know you can use it whenever you need. Because every time you use it, you know it will lead to feeling safe and happy and being able to find the peace and quiet inside of your mind. And whenever you do that, whenever you let go of the tension and anxiety, the positive will flow. It's natural. It's the way it'll automatically go. Release the stress, the positive stuff will flow. So, purposely, consciously, throughout the course of your day, perhaps hanging up the telephone or sending an email on its way, find times to remember to go and see this place of paradise, this creative mastery. And imagine it, feel it, make it seem real. For just a few moments, it'll help you to heal, and it'll help you to remember, and it'll help you to succeed. Just a few moments. Imagine where that could lead.
Bring to mind what you'll see in the room around you in a few moments when you open your eyes. And give yourself these final seconds to reorient and prepare yourself to come up, almost like you're riding up an escalator, coming up a couple of floors here. And now as you're ready, I want you to take another big, slow, deep breath, inhaling, fill your lungs, hold as you peak. There, and now, letting go, exhale, and open your eyes wide awake back in the room, feeling fine, rested, refreshed, better than before.
Yeah, make the good stuff memorable. And that peaceful place, that is so powerful. I had a CEO tell me the way he remembers to go, he put a little yellow sticking thing on his computer that says G2MPP, which stands for Go to My Peaceful Place. Nobody else knows what it means, but he knows what it means. I had an experience a couple of days ago flying home from Indianapolis, Indiana. A guy sitting next to me was talking about his life a little bit and how he has this big giant test coming up. He's like entering a new career and he's got this big giant test. And I felt so good because I could send him these programs. I said, give me your email address and I will send you our family learning hour programs. So I sent him a program on speed reading and one on memory and one on study techniques and one on test taking and performance skills. And they're great stuff, some of our best stuff. And I felt so happy because it's free. And, I just got back from talking to a bunch of CEOs telling them about this because this is the gentle overthrow of the school system can be affected by making more and more exceptional kids. When you've got like 30 kids in a class or 40 kids in a class and 10 of them read 3 times faster than the rest of them, what's the teacher going to do? They have to isolate those kids. They have to put them off the side. Parents are going to get upset about that. Pull them out of school. Bring them into charter schools. We can create a real massive change in the school system by going to Snyderisms.com and downloading the free programs on reading, study, memory, and test taking. It's great stuff, and Michael and I put together these programs on wonderful accelerated learning skills. So absolutely free, and you can send them to anybody you want to. Just send one to a friend. You can send them to anybody you want to. Just give us the email address or do it yourself. It's really cool, and it'll change kids' lives. It's nice for adults to learn to read fast, but it's incredible for kids.
FocusedPassion.com. Get set up with a free account. You'll get the free programs, including the 4 family learning hour classes Steve's talking about, and kids of any age, students of all age. That's what I really want to say. Kids helping their parents, parents helping the kids. Everybody's learning, getting retraining, trying to get through school. Everybody can use these skills. So 4 of those 6 free programs are about this wonderful accelerated learning, including Steve's unique speed reading method, which I've been using for over 30 years. And I've read probably 4 times the books in my life in the last 35 years that I would have read if I hadn't taken Steve's class way back in the day. Think about that. It means my life in so many ways is that much richer as a result of being able to read in a really more natural way. That's why comprehension goes up when you read faster, because it's more along the way of how you think anyway. It's just training those eye muscles to move. Steve's program is incredible. So even though you're already a subscriber, it's likely to finding yourself in paradise. Check those programs out and make sure your friends get the free account at least. Just leave a first name and an email address at focusedpassion.com, and you got the free account with those learning programs in it. Also consider that a 6-month subscription to this premium audio feed is only $39 and available also at Focused Passion. Not the subscription, which most people have. That's really our best rate, only 99 cents a week when you subscribe. But it's a pretty good deal, 6 months for $39.
Makes it easier to give as a gift.
That's the point. And so check it all out at Focused Passion. There's an ED on that. FocusedPassion.com. Hey, thanks for being here. I hope you're really in the holiday seasons. Mele Kalikimaka, which is Merry Christmas from Hawaii. Happy Hanukkah solstice. What else have we got? New Year's, Kwanzaa, and I'm sure there's a few others in there. It's the season to be merry, that's for sure. So I hope it's a happy time.
And my 60th birthday will occur before our next show.
Well, happy birthday to you.
In a few weeks.
Few weeks.
Before they hear this. Right?
Well, happy birthday in any event. The big 60. Think of all the books Steve's read as a result of learning his reading technique that he wouldn't have otherwise read. Hey, thanks very much. Mahalo. Aloha from Maui, Hawaii. Be gentle, love life, and take care of each other. For Steve Snyder, this is Michael Benner.